Logic Only Zone, and we are live again. You guys can join by using the link in the chat and in multiple other locations where the link is available. So hope you guys are having a good day. We have some cool topics today. I'm super excited to go into them. Guys, please share the video if you enjoy the hangout, or if you're a guest, that'd be awesome, because these videos don't really pop up in the feed, so would really appreciate that. Thank you guys again, and welcome to Logic Church. And my co-host, Quintica. Hello.
Hey. How you doing?
There he is. And so, yeah, so a second ago we were talking about Inmendham and, Hero.
How we met him, or how we came in contact with him, right?
Yeah, right.
I guess. And yeah, I saw the stream of consciousness rants. I saw a few of those. And I really thought he was doing comedy. I didn't think he was being serious. And some of the stuff he said did resonate with me, right? So I'm not going to say it's like, I'm not going to totally diss on the guy and say like nothing resonated with me. Yeah, and so I was checking that out, and then he had one.
What's that? Oh, just a second.
How dare you have a private, personal life? Outrageous. Can't believe he's on the internet and he's got a personal life. That's just no.
Impossible.
Yeah, that.
Oh boy.
Oh, he's back. Stop talking about him.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Now, but the other thing he had, what was funny, is he was in his attic for whatever reason it was, and he was like saying this thing where he wouldn't say the F word. He'd say "fluck," like flucking this, flucking that. And he just ran this big long stream about that, and I really thought he was doing comedy. So then, right about the time I started really watching his videos, he started Videodrome, or not Videodrome. I'm sorry, Video. I always screw it up. The channel that he has, right? That he did for his antinatalism, and so I joined it, and I was like the first member to join it. It was like Piero was putting it together for him. And it was in Inmendham, and I got in just by a fluke, and then when I got in there, I was like, oh no, how do I get out of this, right? And you couldn't even quit the way that it was rigged up. You couldn't just like, hey, I want to get out of this. So after enough arguing and stuff with the people and hearing about how much life is crap over and over and over and that, I made a bunch of sock puppets and I started arguing with myself, right? And so people were arguing with me, and I was arguing with me. And when they figured out what was going on, they were like, "You can't do that," and they finally cut me out of there, right? It was I think I had some more interesting conversations with myself in there, with than the other people just saying like, "Yeah, life sucks. Yeah, it does. Yeah, everything's crap. Yeah, it is." You know, that's kind of what it is. So now, you know, it's kind of like a support group, I guess, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there are a few people who have committed suicide that were involved with that group. Now, I'm not saying they're doing it because they were involved with the group, but I don't think, in my opinion, I just don't think it helped to have a bunch of people like egging you on, saying, "Yeah, you're right. There's no sense going on," all that. And then when somebody would do something, you know, after the fact, they'd be like, "Oh, he was a great guy. He was." Well, why not tell him that when he was alive? You know, that kind of.
Yeah, right.
So that's where we had more serious differences in ideology with each other, right? Because and Stizor kind of points it out. Stizor and Ken Katona think that he's actually a threat, right? And I think by himself he isn't, but I think he does kind of sometimes prey on people, you know, and you know, where somebody else, if this person would have found someone else at that time in their life, they may have gotten a positive message in that. And that doesn't mean Inmendham's wrong either. That's, you know, philosophically or whatever, that, you know, in his mind he's right. It's all garbage or whatever, all that other stuff. But I don't see any purposeful point in pushing that. You know?
Yeah, exactly. But I wanted to add, like, I think Gary has a beautiful aesthetic with the performance that he does. like the whole, he's out there in the garden, you know, his house is kind of breaking down a little bit.
Mhm.
It kind of, you know, it kind of has that whole, you know, it's like, it's totally antinatalist. It's like the perfect,
Right.
You know,
It's dystopian.
Yeah, it's perfect. And, you know, he's got like, you know, plants over here and little kitty, and like, you know, he's it's like he's the troll in the forest, you know. He's like, oh, kitty, you know, he treats all the animals nice, and he's like, yeah, human beings destroying the forest type of a thing. I love it. I love it. I really do.
Well, see, he had this deal where, okay, he had the cats in the videos, right? And people would be like, oh, you know, a kitty cat and all that, right?
And he changes his voice for the kitty. Ah, a little kitty cat, you know.
Right. and then right after that, he's like, worthless animal. Like, you know, that kind of thing. Like, it only loves me because I give it food, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so like when his cat died, and he kind of downplayed it, but then he said something, so I made a big like memorial video for his cat, and talking about that was the only reason that I watched his show was for the cat, and he was a little bit pissed with that, and then I started. Well, then I started the rumor that he was eating the cats.
Oh my God!
Because he was a vegan. And I just knew it would piss him off because he was like all, you know, diehard vegan, and you know, he's like I want the end of the world and all this other stuff, but you should switch to being vegan, you know. So I kind of
he smokes, by the way.
And he smokes, which is even more awesome.
LD50 test.
Yeah, well, he got busted for that.
Sorry. Oh, I know. Yeah, taxes.
Yeah, and what was funny is he got burned for the taxes because I don't know if he was ordering online or what the situation was.
Yeah, he was. He was ordering online, and apparently the site says you might get, like, you don't pay tax. He's ordering from a state or somewhere where it's the tax is a lot lower. But it does say once you've got them, you might have to pay higher taxes. But he claims the site didn't say this. He was told he had to pay higher taxes. He argued it. He went to court about it, and he lost.
Oh, right.
But my point regarding his smoking, I don't know how many folks are familiar with what's called a LD50, which is lethal dose 50. And even though we know, or we've done, you know, so much research on the harm or the possible harm that cigarette smoking does, by law, the tobacco companies still have to do these LD50 tests, which involves in the deaths of animals.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my point there. It's like, you're a vegan, but you smoke.
See, I didn't know. Yeah.
No.
Huh.
Yeah, but you see, it's too much fun for him to smoke, and it feeds his anxiety and depression, powered by cigarettes. You know?
It has to be maintained, right?
Yeah, he can't stop now. He's addicted.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, it is very addictive.
Well, what was funny is this was another thing that got me, right? Okay, after 9/11 had happened, I was doing my taxes through the IRS through that, you know, whatever the system is, the automated system they do, and so anyway, I answered one of the questions wrong on my gross earnings or something like that, because they were asking me something like, well, how much did you make this many years ago or whatever? And I was off by a number, like I rounded something down when I should have rounded up or whatever it was. So the way that they changed the laws, it put me on a watch list as like a potential terrorist. Yeah, that's how tight they were with that stuff, right? So okay, so that happened. So then after that happened was when I discovered Gary's site and stuff like that, and then I find out that after that court case with the cigarettes, he didn't threaten the judge. He just kept on going on about the judge, and so then they put a marshal watch on him. He's on the marshal's list, right? The sky marshals, air marshals, whatever, because he was a potential threat to a U.S. judge. Right, so then I'm thinking like, oh man, okay, so now I'm going to be on a watch list because I'm on his site. You know, what the hell? You know, that's
it's going to snowball.
So I was a little bit pissed about that because I think a disclaimer would be in order, right?
Yeah.
But does that mean I'm being watched too?
I would imagine him, seriously, I would imagine that anyone who's had any contact with him at all is probably on some type of watch list.
Oh shit! I've been in Skype with him.
Well, see, there's so many people on watch list, and there's so much this glut of information that they'll never use or never sort through, or
Yeah.
useless information to them, that I wouldn't worry about it. I don't think it's a big major concern. But I figure, that's like another strike against me, and I'm like, what the hell. And then he starts doing videos on economics, right? It's like, okay, so you got burned for your taxes on cigarettes for trying to screw the system, and now you're going to tell people about economics, so you're going to teach them. So that was some of the differences we had, but there were some things that I agreed with him on, and some things that I thought were useful, right? Not much, but a few things.
Yeah, mostly I was attracted by his aesthetic. I
Mhm.
just got he just fits right in where he is, like he doesn't even know, like, I don't know, maybe it's all on purpose,
It's
Well,
like watching Entropy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, when you were talking about the flowers, right?
Hmm.
There was a video, I loved it. It was like he did one about the yard with the flowers, and then he goes back the next day or whatever it is, and the deers had eaten all his flowers.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just like, life sucks again. Like it was like the day before. It was like, here's a nice little fellow, or what, talking to his flowers and stuff. And I don't know if he names them or whatever, but when he's not eating the cats. But yeah, it was just funny to see that, because everyone has that happen. I've seen people who planted whole flower beds in their yards, right? Like these designer flower beds, right? And I've seen, like, maybe a week later, a family of deer will come by and they just clear it out in like 15 minutes, just eat everything right to the ground, right? And you figure, damn, that was a lot of money and a lot of work to get that up there. So Gary is right.
I would mock you for living in a country that has deer roaming about the place, but then I might have to get started on my spinach and the bloody slugs.
Oh,
So
yeah. Well, see, I'm in the city, and we actually have coyotes here, and I've seen them. And I'm in Taylor, but Taylor's pretty close to Detroit, right? And you hear stories about wild dogs and stuff like that. Where I'm at, there's not too many loose dogs or wild dogs. A lot of feral cats, but we actually have coyote here, which is really strange. And you can hear every dog when the coyotes do their call. You can hear every domestic dog right down the street just answers it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's just like being out in the woods and that, but it's not really woods here. It's right off the main roads.
Right. Is it like, because in the UK we get urban foxes?
See, I think I've seen a fox one time in my life around here, but it was like maybe a year ago, and that's the only time I've ever seen one.
Right. I don't. As far as I know, I'm pretty sure we don't get coyotes here.
Oh.
Coyotes, even. What did I? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Topic 1.
Oh, yeah. Well, you have all these plans that people have for regulating the populations, deer populations, whatever it may be, right? And usually they go a little bit overboard whenever they do a correction, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you have a problem with, all of a sudden, there's no wolves or no coyotes or foxes or whatever, but you might have a ton of deer, right? And they're going like on the airstrips and stuff like that. So then they try to overcorrect there, So I don't know what the answer is, but you're always going to have that as long as you have cities, pushing back and pushing back,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Gary, I'm sure, is infuriated about that.
Oh, in his yard. Well, what's funny is I don't know. I think he's probably a big softy when it comes to the deers and all that, Hey, how's it going?
But, Annie.
Hey, Heavy.
Hang on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We've got feed. No, I think we're getting feedback from Andy Moose, Anonymous.
No, we are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Animus. Yeah, I think we can hear. I don't know if you've got it playing live in the background or something.
Oh, I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, I'm not hearing it, but I don't know. I don't know if there's something coming on in your line or.
Yeah, I think I just had my headphones up a little bit too loud.
Oh
So let's
Oh,
no,
bring it
it's
back a little.
correction. If I could just, what has happened is I've got the live stream playing, but I'd
Mhm.
got my speakers turned down. But all of a sudden, it decided to come through my headset, so I was listening to both at the same time.
Ooh.
Oh,
Even
okay.
though up until now it had not been doing that, so I've now muted the live. So my apologies, Annie and Anoni. You were not feedbacking at all.
You will never be forgiven. Okay, you guys ready? You guys ready?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about art because art is basically essentially a part of most of the things that I do. And no matter what I do, I end up doing something artistic related to whatever it is, like appearance or like creating aesthetic for something. Like I'm writing a book and I'm using art and stuff like that to make it more digestible or something like that. But the question is, and let me find it. The question is, on art, music, and aesthetics, are they superficial and meaningless, or do they add to our lives? Okay. And so Dee posted an interesting quote that was inferring that art is life itself, or something like that.
It was an Oscar Wilde quote.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But yeah, and so basically what I want to talk about is art just merely an illusion? Could we, because that's the thing, like, can we say that art is a valuable thing because it's really just the reformation of patterns, or because everything is matter and energy created into forms, and so
At this point, I'm going to ask you to define what you mean by art.
by
Uh-oh.
art, yeah, okay.
Because art to
So-
me is music, film, dancing,
Yes.
writing. It's everything. Even if you're writing a
What I mean,
factual book, Sorry, go on.
so I don't just mean like art forms, like the act of doing something to write. So to me, that's more of like an action that I'm taking than. So it's like something you can see in image, so imagery and like a painting or clothes or something like that, something more aesthetic, not necessarily an art form like to write or to do a backflip, to do karate. That's art, but not that's not what I mean when I'm referring to art. So I'm referring to aesthetics. Yeah.
I could jump in there with a. There was a. I don't know the actual quote offhand, but Arthur Schopenhauer. He was. Some credit him as the father of antinatalism, right? He was very down on if you read his reading, or you read. I'm sorry, read his writing. He's very down on sexuality and women and procreation, and he really sees the world as a net negative, as existence as a net negative. And he doesn't believe in any of the religions. He's kind of against most of the religions, but he does have some ascetic values, right? Now, one of the things that he had said about art was he said that the only salvation for humanity was in aesthetics, like the aesthetics of art, of what we do, what we create. But now this to me seems like a paradox, because if you believe that everything adds to nothing and that everything is just about pain and suffering, then what does that say about the art that you make? Can that somehow equal out or make humanity worthwhile if everything is pain and suffering? So I don't really agree with Schopenhauer's view on that, but I do think that through our art, through our expression, we can overcome a lot of the negativity, right?
Yes.
But it was funny that came from Arthur Schopenhauer, because you would think that somebody that had that view about life would just be like, nope, art's not going to save you. You know, there's nothing good you can do. Just take it to the end. You know, and he you know, touts art and aesthetics as a positive.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I think that's interesting. So obviously, what we've established is there's an emotional connection to art. So art can have an emotional influence on people, and then this influence can be of a negative or positive nature. So it can influence growth and productivity and goodness, or it can promote negativity and chaos and destruction. Is what I'm getting here. Is that?
Yeah, almost.
Mm-hmm. What I'd say is that like art to me is just stuff that makes you think about things, and ultimately it's not, we're not going to be able to like get rid of art or, you know, make there be more art. Not sure if you guys get what I'm saying, but basically art is just, you know, it's just a fact of life. It's just the ways human beings interact with each other is creates art, and you know,
Yeah,
all
I
that.
agree.
So it's a type of language.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Or it certainly can be. Yeah, I would.
Interesting.
Yeah, so what's Heavy Howler got on this?
Okay, I'm a little slow hitting the giddy up go button there. I don't know, art can be a way of expressing things. You can like, I like horses, say for instance. So you do art drawings of horses or paint horses. Other people may like it and appreciate the beauty of, if you're good enough, you know, how beautiful it is. You know, and there's an emotion that you look at a painting or drawing or whatever, or 3D animation, whatever it is, whatever form of a horse, and you go, oh wow, that looks so cool. You know, horses are pretty awesome. They really are. But it's just a way of expressing. One way. Okay, I'm skipping around here. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay, it's a way of expressing things that you like, if you can draw, like trees or flowers or buildings or whatever, sculptures. It's kind of like you like something so much you want to try to maybe make your own version of it, like in a painting or drawing or sculpture or something. And
Sorry, go on.
And for other people, it could be something different. You know, everyone gets kind of a different thing from making the art and from appreciating the art.
Yeah, I mean, even in dance, you can express that sort of thing through dance, through music. It's just, you know, I mean, all of those things for me evoke an emotional response. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. Oh, sorry, I should say. Well, I mean, yeah, some artwork makes you sad, but to me, in a beautiful way.
It's kind of like poetry. You can read a poem. Certain poems are funny, or certain poems convey a feeling or a meaning, you know, about something. Or like you said, it can make you sad too. You know, you have that emotion tied up.
Right. Yeah. And I think the reason why I bring this question up is because I was worried that by being artistic in my life and everything I'm doing, that it's partially superficial. That I guess by really thinking about it and considering the ideas you're saying, I'm thinking of it more in the way that I'm actually just expressing myself. But I worry that I'm being delusional by being an artistic person, that it's a type of disillusionment. So.
Well, now if you're doing art for business or something like that, or for advertising, that's kind of different.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing something to present something, a rendering of a building or a product or something like that, and there is artistic expression there, but it's, to me, it would be different from just me sitting down and painting a tree. It's kind of a different thing there. Gosh, I haven't painted in ages. I used to love oil painting. Oil painting is so awesome.
I've never tried oils, but I mean, we see as well. There's such a thing as art therapy, and even if you don't have certain, I think it's generally for certain mental issues, but even if you don't have, or you're not aware of having certain mental issues, I find art very therapeutic. It's one of those things that I'm not lost. It sounds a bit. You're in the moment. All I'm doing is, I mean, I've often got a hangout in going on in the background, and a lot of the times I think, oh, I better stop and rewind that because I've no idea what anyone's just said because I've been in the moment doing my art.
Okay, don't get too be careful when you listen to Hangouts because someone might say something and you go, oh! You know, you get so mad all of a sudden it's like, arr, you know.
Yeah.
But a good artist will know how to correct that. Well, not correct their mistakes, but make use of them. Not that I'm implying I'm a good artist, but yeah, I think it's. I'll put it this way. Imagine the world without any form of art.
That would suck. I mean, when you're so used to it, to not have any, that was. But if you grew up in a world with no art, well, I don't know. It probably wouldn't be an issue.
I'm not.
I really don't know.
I mean, to me, everything is art, including nature. So.
Well, I've seen some cars. I'm like, oh, that is so beautiful.
Oh, well, yeah.
You know, it's like a type of art in a way. You look at it and you get this emotion response. Like, wow, you know.
Even I've seen cars that I've thought, man, that's beautiful.
Motorcycles or something. You go, oh, that is so sexy.
Yeah, again, it's the full. And well, let's go when I'm saying about writing as well. I mean, even if you're writing a non-fiction, it's an art form. Because if you just write out dry facts,
you have to have a style, you know.
Yeah, you've still got to draw the reader in. You've got to make the reader. Well, you haven't got to. It's not, a legal obligation. Just, if you've got a book that draws you in and that fascinates you, and gets you to read about the facts, or you've got a book that just lists the facts as this dry, dull information.
Yeah, and even then it could be considered art. So I think what I was just trying to say is that it's our perspective that makes it art.
Yes.
How we look at it.
I was going to go back to something Dee said, and it's like she's talking about book reading. It draws you in. Like, have you ever sat down and read a book, like fiction or something or a story? And it's like you start building an image in your head of the scene and the characters and stuff, and you get caught up in the words, and the words become more than just that. They become actual, emotions or characters or people. Like when something terrible happens, or you read like the monster jumps out or something, you're really into it. You actually kind of jump and react to that just reading.
Yeah.
And a picture, okay, like say I use the example of painting a tree. You could be sitting there looking at a tree, and that image catches you, and you sort of, sometimes you can kind of put yourself into that picture, and like, you're sitting under the tree maybe, or that would be a nice place to have a picnic, or something like that.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I like what Daniel has put in the live chat. Art is our expression on how we perceive the world. I like that. I like that a lot.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one too, because there's so many different ways you could define art, because it's different for a lot of people.
That's good. That's good you guys said this stuff, because I am the logic only zone, and so I get into these like ways of thinking where it's just like patterns, and I'm just looking at the stuff, and it's like, this is just patterns, right? So am I just being fooled, into into enjoying this? This is everything is just patterns to me. And so,
but even in science, aren't we a pattern-seeking species?
Yeah, and you're right. And so maybe there's this subjectivity to patterns as well, where it's some more inner, soulful expression. It's not, emotion along with patterns. Emotional patterns. So, and maybe it's like you guys are saying, it's less superficial than I was beginning to think it was. And I think that was something I was feeling a lot of pain over, because I really do like art, and I've always been very expressive in the journeys I go into, the things I try to become, and the things I do. So good. I feel much better. Very nice.
I'm glad we could help you.
Well, thank you.
We'll send you a bill.
Yeah, that'd be $5,000.
But I will draw a picture on the back of it. Actually, I don't draw. I'll do something with my mixed media.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I used to go opaque drawings, colored pencils. Those were fun. Making things out of clay, 3D animation or 3D models. I've done some of that. I've built things. Like I made an alien costume way back. It was pretty awesome. So I guess you could call that art. But being able to like use your hands and your mind to make something that it's kind of like you're creating something that doesn't exist, even though it may not be real like in a painting, or it may be something people can touch like in a sculpture. You're taking it from up here and you're putting it out there for other people to see, or for just yourself to see and enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get positive feedback, that's great. If you get negative feedback, well, maybe I can do it better next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I initially I started off doing card making as a hobby to actually make cards for people. But generally, I was still doing it for myself, and then I'm like, oh, I've got all these cards. I better actually, send them to people as cards.
Cool.
I don't know what else to do with them. But it's kind of
yeah, they're starting to pile up, and you have nightmares about cards falling.
It's actually happening now. I've got quite a basket full of cards. I've got like more cards than I have friends. So yeah. But like I said earlier, though, I mean, I don't think anyone's. I don't know how you. Well, I suppose somebody have grown up without art, but like I say, dance, music, TV, write, whether it's fiction or non-fiction, it's still to some extent art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
the style of your sofa.
Yeah, and I think what really got me into art was I used to watch anime when I was a kid. And I used to really love the characters and the costumes and the different types of expression, the personalities of the characters and stuff like that. And I started sort of implementing these ideas into my life in terms of, toying with my appearance and, personality and stuff like that, because I was really into that whole idea of a protagonist with a creative expression, and every anime had like this different universe, and there's all these different types of costumes that goes along with it, and different types of adventures that these characters would go on to, and that was always fascinating to me. So
yeah.
Cool. So anything else on this? Anything else in the chat? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I like that idea that you guys come up with, the idea of what would it be like if there was no art, right? If you were born into a world where there was no artificial art, right, or man-made art, and the only way that would happen is if people had no sense of reflection, over what they saw, right? So it'd be kind of weird. It'd be like you'd walk up to something like, say, a tree or something, and you'd be like, wow, that's really cool. Okay, and it'd instantly be gone out of your mind, right? You wouldn't wonder how it's constructed or anything like that. And see, art is sometimes it's a way of us recreating what we see, and kind of learning how those patterns and those systems fit together, right? Mm-hmm. So that would be a really strange existence. It'd be. I don't think you could really have consciousness without art being a part of that.
Yeah.
Right. Just playing with patterns.
Right.
Constructing things out of patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dreams. We dream and we imagine things. So.
I'm sorry I missed this first part.
Yeah, it was fun. Do you have anything to add?
Oh, I don't know if I'd be adding anything since I missed it. What? Anybody want to summarize?
We were just talking about art. What it means to us and what it means to existence, I guess. Right.
Yeah.
If it's largely a useful thing, or if it's something that a lot of times is a distraction or an illusion that clouds reality. Yeah, I guess that's what we were saying at the beginning of it.
Yes. Yeah.
And we're saying that for the most part it's positive.
Hmm. But it can also be destructive, like punk rock, right? You know.
Oh, what?
But no, sometimes it is to shake up.
Destructive.
Some people do art stuff to shake up the establishment, or to attempt to shake up the establishment. Unfortunately, the establishment does seem to be very freaking grounded and stubborn. But anyway, that's another subject altogether.
It seems to me that art can be chaotic.
It can be.
And still be art.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes chaos is necessary, right? We need to demonstrate the chaos.
Mm-hmm. A little bit.
To appreciate it for what it is. And that helps appreciate its opposite, order.
Mm-hmm.
Because people find aesthetic value in order also. It's a favorite topic of mine. I guess I don't want to drag it on any further. It's my bad for missing it.
Well, so something interesting is I'm actually not a big fan of abstract art. So Heavy was noting that in the chat, and I'm not either. I really like there to be some sort of formation into something that has some good emotional context to it. So sort of like a piece of art that's random, that has no like significant emotional connotation to it, that has like mixed emotion or confusion related to it. It's not necessarily a type of art that I'm attracted to, but it's still interesting.
Sure, there's a lot of art that I don't like. I don't know. I don't even know exactly what you mean by abstract art, but I've seen some things that is called art, and I say, what the fuck is that? And
it's so subjective, isn't it, though?
And it's completely subjective, and that's the thing. I mean, there are certainly consensus subjective values, right? Subjective values that people hold in common. People say symmetry is one of them, and there are other things, color values. But when you mention abstract art, of course, I know the feeling, I think, when I see something, but you said that it's devoid of feeling or something to that effect, right?
It's kind of like mixed, a confused mix of something. So everything has some sort of connotation to it. But like, for example, if you look at like a splatter painting, that's abstract art. It doesn't like have an initial feeling, but different colors have different sort of tendencies in terms of the emotion that they give off, or different sets of patterns, how shapes go together and stuff like that. And so something like that would be abstract art. And then so I was speaking in terms of it being sort of confused in what it means, and so it's super up to the individual to decide what it's
right.
Trying to say.
And that's the point, I guess, I wanted to make, is that from your perspective, sure, it's usually not to the artist if they're really an artist. I know some people just whip something together and call it art, and they may have not put any emotion into it. It may actually, in fact, mean nothing to them, and I assume that that's something like a lot of portrait artists. You give them a photograph and they reproduce it in paint or whatever medium, and I don't know if that's art. It's an art, but
yeah,
I don't know that it has any real aesthetic value, or I mean, how do I explain that? But that's neither here nor there. I think art is important. It's one of the most important things. And in the description, I saw something about, is it superficial? Is it meaningless? No. Answer is no.
Okay.
But I think maybe what you're there is differentiating, perhaps, it might not be quite the right terms, between something you've just drawn because or whatever art form you're using, something you've produced because it came from the heart, or something that you've been commissioned to do, like a portrait, like an advertising campaign.
Right. So, yeah. So art can have varying levels of value or
yes.
Meaning. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's all very subjective.
Yeah, it's a very broad term and it's very subjective.
Cool. Neat. Okay, I think we covered this topic. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so on to a more difficult topic. So,
Feminism.
yes.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Everything
So-
is feminine. No.
So, are social institutions using the guise of equality and human rights as a means to erode social cohesion, understanding, and the community at large? So, this is a rather touchy topic, I think. But so yeah, it's appeared to me for a while that the media and social institutions appear to be using the concept of equality, or stuff like racism or feminism or different ideas like this to control and manipulate the social framework of society. And it seems that it's sort of a divide and conquer technique. They're trying to divide and conquer to control people. That's what it appears to me. But we can discuss that and determine what you guys think.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was well. I had a conversation earlier talking about the idea of being accused of being an atavist or a traditionalist, right? If you're supporting a status quo structure, right, societal structure, and that. Is JJ still in? Oh, there he is. Okay, and
Sorry,
I
can
think
I just
that,
ask what an atavist is?
well, it's the atavist is generally a physiological term, but it's sometimes used as a societal term. Another way of calling somebody a throwback, right?
Oh, right, gotcha. Yeah.
Okay, and see, the thing is that I see. Okay, you have this culture and a societal structure that's either part of the culture or the culture exists within that structure. And then you have individuals who have their wants and needs and their individual lifestyles that they have and the things they want. And so you have some people who, want a more traditional lifestyle, right? And you have some people that want a more progressive lifestyle, right? And I think it is possible to have elements of both in one society, one cultural structure. But I do see a lot of infighting within cultures under the guise of different narratives, different things that usually use the word equality in there somewhere, or egalitarianism in it. And I see that with feminism. But now I think that a big problem with feminism is that you have so many different types of feminism now, so many different types of feminists now, that it's really hard to get a good take on what the group as a whole wants, or what individuals want that the other individuals in that movement don't want, right? And so a lot of times you have to attack the entire concept, right, in order to address it. Which I'd rather not do, but it seems like you have to do that because you're on the defensive if you have a so-called traditionalist viewpoint or something like that. But I think JJ might have some really good stuff to say on this.
Yeah.
You're not going to trigger me, are you?
Consider yourself triggered.
Not at all. Not I.
I'm teasing, darling.
Well, I guess I could say a couple things. My understanding of feminism is it's feminism. You say different kinds of feminism, and again, my understanding is that there are various movements with various specific issues with regards to feminism, but there's really only one feminism. There are different movements with different topics, though. Not all of which I guess I agree with. Some seem way out of touch with how I see things. I mean, I had a big, long discussion about Anita Sarkeesian yesterday, so
Well,
Now,
I don't.
in your view, is she a feminist from your viewpoint?
Sure, she says she is. I'm assuming
Well,
she wants some sort of gender equality.
okay, well, what I mean is, you have, when I say different types of feminism, okay, all I'm saying is that there are people who call themselves feminists, and they say they have, or they represent feminist causes, right? And Anita Sarkeesian being one of them. Now, I personally think she's exploiting feminism to to make money as a con scheme or whatever. The way that she's exploiting video games. Now, I do believe that's what's going on. I may not be right about that, but I wouldn't call her a feminist.
Why not?
Well, see, because okay, she does think, okay, when she talks about these things with the games and that, right?
Right.
When she started with the premise that I don't play a lot of games, I'm not really part of that culture, but now I'm in that culture, and now I see all the sexism in games, right? Now, if it's about equality, feminism, then I would think that the marketplace should determine what the games are. The demand should determine what's in the games.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't even know what she's talking about as far as sexism in video games.
oh, okay. Okay. Well, what I mean is, from what she says, and in regards to video games and feminism, right?
Right.
Maybe
And I've heard what she said, and I don't see it. I don't understand what she's talking about.
okay. So
Yeah.
okay, you're not familiar with it, so it's not really.
No, I don't think
No, I'm
that's what he's
familiar
saying.
with it. I just don't see it. I don't think what she's saying is real.
Yeah,
Oh,
let
it's true.
me woman-splain for him. He knows what her arguments are. He just thinks they're bullshit. Okay,
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
that is strongly paraphrasing him, but
Well,
yeah.
well,
That's fair, though.
well, my point would be that there's other feminists or people who call themselves feminists
Sure.
who are not concerned with the video games, and
Right.
okay, and they may not have all the same beliefs that Anita Sarkeesian does as far as feminism. So that's where we get some of the confusion over, like, what feminism should I like, or what feminism should I not like, or what should I?
Well, there's really only one feminism. That's what I'm saying. And
Well,
and as the way it's applied to different issues is something completely different.
Well, see, okay, when you hear people talk about like third wave feminism and stuff like that, okay, are they talking about the generation of feminists, or are they talking about the way that they practice feminism, or is that something entirely different?
They're talking about a set of specific issues with regard to feminism, is my understanding.
Okay, so they are still feminists.
I mean, I'll pull it up. How about I pull it up?
Well, the point I'm trying to get to is that I believe there are different types of feminism and different types of feminist, and I think that makes it a little bit confusing when you try to address feminism.
Well, I think.
Okay. Just to be clear one more time, there's only one feminism, even though these different waves, as they're called, have specific issues with regard to feminism. Now,
Can I say something real quick?
you can take those
In a sec, yeah, I'll
as
be
they are, but there's really only one feminism. It's just applied differently.
I think
certain
Anani
issues.
wanted to. Anani, so I wanted to say.
Okay, so now in the belief of feminism, right, or the structure of feminism as a concept, there's only one feminism, right? But now how that's applied, and the people who apply that could be different types of applications of feminism or different types of feminism. I think
No, there are different issues.
Well, okay.
That's really all it is.
Okay, but doesn't feminism, if it's a core belief, don't all of those issues apply to the core belief?
I would say not necessarily. Not
Okay,
in my view.
then I think you would be agreeing with me that there's different types of feminism.
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
Okay.
There are different types of people that
I think
see
Anoni's
things
been trying to.
differently, but I think it distracts from conversation to say there are different types of feminism.
Well, the way I'd phrase it is like there are feminists that believe contradictory things. Like
Probably.
there are feminists that believe that for instance, sex work is is a taboo, and there's others that celebrate it. So, and they're both feminists. So that would be what I would consider two different types of feminism.
If I may throw something in real quick, it started out just social institutions, but we kind of got latched on to feminism. There's other social institutions out there,
Yes.
that we could probably talk about, because the feminism thing could lead down a rabbit hole real quick if we're not careful.
Right. So guys, okay. So to get back on topic, so basically, what I want to talk about is the idea that to maintain control, what is really being used here. So there is no such thing as feminism. The reality is we're all human beings, and all of these ideas are being charged with emotion, and then groups are joining up with these charged emotional ideas, and then they're all being basically put against each other. So they're creating a war between us, whereas we should all be together because we're just human beings. Bottom line. Hello, my fellow human beings. Live long and prosper. And so yeah, so that's really what we should be doing. So all these things are just made-up concepts, if you will. And this is my thought on the matter, because if I never heard about what feminism is and somebody came up to me and told me what it was, I'd just say, never heard of that, never thought of that. That's certainly not something that's associated with nature. So you're making stuff up at that point, You're making that up, That's
like a social institution. I was just looking it up just to see, and like you could say it could be an ethnic or cultural group, families, it can be countries, educational institutions, community service organizations. It's like a group of people that are together for like a common goal or common purpose. But if you get a certain group of people together and say, well, here's our goals and here's what we want to do to make life better, they may be in opposition to this other group that's over here somewhere trying to promote their interest. Or it may be their goals and interests may be against the government or a certain religion or something or whatever. People will fight over a lot of different things. And it's like you get in a social institution and get going, and it can kind of get away maybe, or someone will take it a direction it doesn't need to go, and it can cause problems for other people.
Right, and I think it's just for power. People are like, well, to maintain power, I think the best thing I can do is create conflict between other people, and so they don't notice what I'm doing.
Yeah, but that's not to say all of them are like that. There's a lot of social institutions or groups out there that are doing a lot of good for people.
Oh yeah, not everybody, but I think a lot of them these days are making use of that strategy, because obviously you can have a strategy of self-development where you're promoting the well-being of everybody through promoting their value and getting them to work together and cooperate to build something. So you can build something, or you can stagnate it or destroy it as a means to distract from something else. So there's all kinds of strategies in war, and so basically that's what we're looking at. This is just my opinion.
Can you tell me what you mean by social institution?
Yeah, I was just wondering.
So like, let's see. So societal-based organizations. But when I'm referring to, for the basis of this discussion, is our specific one. But I think a lot of the governments and societies out there are dealing with similar issues. And I think and there's all kinds of reasons for that. But people want to maintain their power, and so there's all kinds of different methods for doing so.
All right, still not getting it. Sorry.
Well, I was looking
because the question is, are social institutions using the guise of equality and human rights as a means to erode social cohesion and
Yeah, like there doesn't need to be a, for example, there doesn't need to be a law that says you can't call somebody the N-word. I mean, words don't hurt. You shouldn't be offended by words anyway. You know, that's a silly idea. So I think there a lot of people are using ideas like that to manipulate people, in that it makes it, by creating these social taboos and blaming other people and victimizing and doing things like that, where these people are responsible for that and then we're the victims or something like that, by creating these battles between people. And then make it all about equality, trying to make people equal and things like that. Sorry, there's something flying around. I think that this is a mistake, and I think it's consequential. And I think that this is what's going on.
What? I'm sorry. What is the mistake?
That there is a... Okay, well, part of this is to discuss the idea, whether this is occurring or not. So I'm not here to prove that that's what's going on or not. But it appears to me there's this sort of a thing going on, considering the fact that we're all just human beings, and there's really no reason for us to squabble among each other, unless it's over like resources to survive. And so people are fighting each other over ideas such as gender or race or something like this. Then I think it's totally ridiculous, and that is manufactured by society in order to control the populace through divide and conquer techniques.
Well, and then you have on one side you got pro-life, then you got on the other side pro-choice.
Yes, exactly.
And then those do not mix together real good.
Yes. So that's what I mean.
Yeah, an institution could be a lot of different things. Really.
Yes. It's like a social warfare.
So
culture war.
Yeah, well, abortion is a serious issue, and there are two sides to that argument that we just identified.
Right, but the trouble is you can't tell other people what to do, and so you might not like that somebody. No, you might not like that somebody does something with their body or makes a particular choice. But at the end of the day, you can't just make somebody do something because you don't like it. And so what it does is it creates a war between people, like, oh, these people can tell those people what to do, or get these people to think that they don't like those people's ideas, or that these people represent something, and then get them to fight among each other. So it's a divide and conquer technique.
By whom?
By a social. Okay. Do you see that these things don't just come about naturally?
Disagreements?
No.
See, this is where I think there's a bit of a
TJ, do you understand what I'm saying?
You made me, both of you, all of you, made me think of social institutions, and I'm wondering if I could include theocratic institutions, or theocracies, or like government structures that are religiously motivated, right? So you take Islam, right? And I'm not talking about just one nation, under Islam or whatever, but I'm talking about anybody in that faith, right? It's like, okay, they have a set of cultural norms that they have to abide by, and they have a set of rules that they have to abide by. And to us, or to a lot of Westerners, to a lot of people who are Christians or Catholic or atheists or whatever, okay, that might seem like them wearing the burqa or wearing the head coverings, face coverings, all that, might seem very oppressive to us, right? And so, for the sake of egalitarianism and equality, we would want to fight for those for the women's equality, so that they don't have to wear these garments, right?
And if it's forced or coerced, it is oppression.
Right, exactly. And then on the other hand, you may have a great many people in that belief that actually want to wear that, and they do see that as a something that's appropriate for their culture. And so they may look at us, if we have like scantily clad women or whatever, they may look at us like, hey, we've got to change them because they're wrong, because they're, these women are being treated like sluts, they're being treated bad because they're showing skin or whatever, right?
They're being objectified.
Right. And
warning.
Well, and a lot of times the arguments are coming from people who it doesn't necessarily concern, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if I have a neighbor that's, where they have the burqas and the hijabs or whatever, my first go-to thing wouldn't be to, hey, that's wrong. You can't make her wear that, right? But there are people who do think that way and who would fight for that. And then, like, after they realize they've destroyed a culture or stepped on a culture or stepped on their beliefs, they might say, oops, now I started something, right? But like with belief systems that are, theocracies or religious-based, whoever that God is that you worship and that people that you're in, you've got to be the chosen ones, right? So it's like if it's the Jewish people, okay, they're the chosen ones. Well, what does that say about the rest of the human race, right? It's very exclusive in that regards. I don't know how it is in practice so much, right? But at least in the belief system, it's very exclusive, right? And the same could be said for, I guess, Islam or the Scientologists or the Mormons, right? A very, very...
well, the Calvinists.
Yeah, and they, but that's the thing. If you're not in that group, you're just, you're just not worthy. You're not, you're never going to be part of that.
Exactly, and so like basically, people are always going to like people like them. I like people like me. That's why I'm here talking to you, because I'm looking for people like me.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. Hi guys. Hi people like me. So that's what people want, but the problem is when we take it too far and out of a sense of egalitarianism or a fairness or unfairness or right or wrong, people construct a situation where one group is going against another group. This group saying that this other group has to think like this, or this other group has this wrong idea or something like that, and we forget that we're just human beings and we should all just kind of be cool with each other for the sake of our own well-being. And so that's what I wanted to talk about. Is this idea specifically?
But wouldn't it be easier if we all thought the same?
It'd be boring, right?
Yes, it would. Actually, I am only joking. I hasten to.
And unnatural, impossible even.
That'd be freaky.
Yeah.
I'm a bit freaked out by Hogtie Champ because like every comment he's put up, I've never disagreed with it, and I'm like, oh my god, this is just not. No, it's not normal.
Well, I'd say it is.
Yeah, it is. Very sensible chappy, actually.
Yes, he is.
But yeah, if I didn't disagree with anybody's comments on YouTube, I'd be like, oh shit, is there something wrong with me or them?
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
So,
do you want to add something, JJ?
Oh, I was just. I'm sorry. Did you say JJ?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, but you can go too. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just commenting on a video that Anakantavad made earlier, and he was asking something kind of relative to this topic, and he was asking about conspiracy theories and what conspiracy theories you might have that you think the top 1% are doing to people, right? To to whatever maintain their wealth or their status. And what I had added was that I think that racism in this day and age, I'm not saying it was always this way, but I'm saying in this day and age, I think it's my belief that it's a tool that's used by people in power, and just to get people who are like the have-nots and the have-a-littles fighting each other, so they take their eye off the big picture. Now, I don't. I'm not saying that I have a lot of evidence to back this up or whatever, but my belief is that if you had enough money and enough wealth, and your neighbor was, you know, a different race, and they had the same amount of wealth, and were in the same area, I don't think there would be any racism.
Someone sounds like a commie.
well, I'm not. Yeah, I understand the. I understand why somebody would think that communism could work or that socialism could work. I do understand that. But what is often the case is when it goes into practice, there are people who take advantage of the system. There always are. And it never goes down the way it does on paper. Therefore, you're almost better off to have greedy people in a capitalist society kind of running things, because the people that take advantage of the socialist systems and the people that take advantage of the communist systems generally do the same thing, but it seems like there's a higher body count or a larger price to be paid at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you can't stop the crazy kids who want to play punk rock. You know,
right.
That's the thing.
But I feel like I just derailed your point, though, because I mean you were just now advocating for some sort of economic equality, right?
Oh, is that me?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I wasn't. It wasn't actually that I was advocating for it, but what my point was is that if you're in a society, if you're in a situation where your neighbors, say your neighbors are all different races, right, and you all have the same opportunities, the same money, the same whatever, then I don't think racism is going to be an issue. But even amongst poor people, I don't think that racism would be an issue if it wasn't for the narratives that are being pushed onto people.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that part of that is a distraction, because if we're fighting each other, you know, then we're not going to make big demands on the top 1% or whatever if we're fighting each other. Now, having said that, I reiterate that I do see why somebody would believe that a socialist system could work or would work, or why a communist system could or would work, but it usually does not work, and it's just another. It ends up being another situation where a ruling elite can take advantage of it.
Sure, which I mean, it just ends up with a different form of ruling elite, other than what we have now, which is because some people took advantage of the capitalist system, right? Right.
Yeah. I thought at some point that's what logic was actually getting at, with the division between. I mean, a classic example would be, more often than not, and it's probably slightly off topic, but you know, when we have economic struggle, when we're going broke, basically, that's when nationalist parties come to the forefront. And we start screaming bloody murder about immigrants, and this kind of division comes in, because I don't know if that was something that logic was getting at, amongst other things.
I love just these different tactics and stuff where it's pitting people against each other.
I love this idea of Schrodinger's immigrant, who is both taking our jobs and too lazy to work at the same time.
Oh my goodness, that's a good one.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, but you hear it all the time.
Yeah, it's
they're either taking our jobs or they're too lazy to work.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times they work jobs that a lot of people don't want to work.
Yes.
And when they do work, I mean, I've seen, you know, like you say, you know, they don't work or hard or this or that. No, a lot of these people that, you know, like Mexicans or immigrants or whatever, working these lower jobs, they bust their butts. They do.
Well, back in the, I don't know if it was the 50s or 60s here in the UK, when economically we were doing very well, yeah, I say I was not part of the government then, strangely enough, not now either. But we actively tried to get people from the West Indies and India to come over and do jobs, and sort of menial, and some of them, I mean menial, I mean like even bus driving, because we were doing really well and we had better jobs, and we wanted to import people, for want of a better term, to do this menial bus driving, etc., etc. Then
Sure.
when we're getting a little bit, oh shit, there's a financial stuff going on.
And-
Oh, it's
and-
bloody
and you're
immigrants.
talking-
It's like, yeah, we invited them. We wanted them here to do jobs we didn't want to do. You cheeky.
And I don't know about in the UK, but here that was the 60s was when tax rates, top tax rates were reduced because we had a booming economy, which was arguably because the tax rates were so high. And during the 60s here, tax rates were reduced, and again, I'm not sure how it was in the UK, but that eventually led to economic downturn.
Right. I don't know if it's to do with the taxes here at that time, but I know we certainly had an economic upturn. I think it was the 60s, and then we had a downturn, and that's, and not that there wasn't racism when we had the economic upturn, I hasten to add. I mean, you would see signs in B&Bs and places that said no dogs, no blacks, no Irish.
I still have my no Irish sign.
My grandmother had one of those.
Oh,
But I'm half Irish, so
but,
it's okay.
but as I say,
I'm
we
allowed.
did invite people. We actively encouraged them to come over from the West Indies and India to do jobs we didn't want to do.
Yeah, so if the social institution we're talking about is racism, is racism being used to divide the people?
I believe so.
I think so, yeah.
Well, consider that the head, what is it, the people who stand up in front of the people, the things that they're saying are related to these areas of criticism. So, like, it's definitely a tool, but basically you want people to be focused on each other and not on you.
Absolutely,
it's not
yeah.
me, it's them. They're the bad ones, not me. I've done nothing. It wasn't me, it was them.
Well, it's
Yeah, I
not
agree.
I see kids do this on the playground,
Yeah, well, like the Black Lives Matter thing, right? Okay, if it were a movement that did positive things, right? That you could show all these positive things. Now, I guess there are a few things that they did that were positive that there's videos for.
They do positive things, but as with everything, it takes all kinds, and people have their own ideas as to what is the right method to get their message across, and doesn't always work.
Yeah. See, see, the thing is like I see them at these Trump rallies or whatever, or people who say that they're affiliated with them, right? And then sometimes I wonder, well, how much is Trump paying them to do that? Because they're really making Trump look really good, on these things, and these different like college circuits where people try to shut down the speakers, and you have these conservative speakers. And my view is that if these people, if what they're saying is actually that bad, then the best thing you could do is let them say it, and let them talk to their heart's desire to these colleges and let other people see what is so bad about them, right?
I agree.
Yeah, see, so it's like, so when they try to censor them and they use like tactics that are bordering on assault, right? Then it paints a bad image of the protesters themselves. Where if the protesters just were in attendance and let the people speak, I think that would be much more useful to their cause. If I understand what their cause is.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but some people or groups go around with a sign on their back, "Kick me," and so it kind of helps promote their thing. Oh, we're so oppressed,
Yeah. Well, we'll come together in the end. Yeah. Eventually, just like how little kids trying to learn how to tie their shoe, the world is struggling to tie its shoe, and eventually, it'll figure it out.
Eventually, they'll start using more Velcro.
Oh, damn, you asking it.
And we're all going to be...
Velcro is a trade name. Velcro is a trade name. It's called hook and loop. Hook and loop.
Hook and loop.
It's so fucking sad that I know that.
Did you ever see the episode of Enterprise where they showed the what Velcro came from?
No.
That was the Vulcans that brought Velcro back in time.
No.
Did you ever see that episode?
No.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
T'Pol. I think it's T'Pol.
I'm Googling now.
You remember that? Yeah, wasn't that funny? And that's what she used to pay for taking care of some woman or some kid, and also getting back to the spaceship or whatever it was. She gave them the Velcro, the Vulcan Velcro, and
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
thank you, Vil, for that Velcro, Vulcans.
nice tie-in. Yeah.
But yeah, apparently, so I've been informed, Velcro get quite upset that we keep calling this particular thing Velcro, because Velcro is a brand name, and apparently they make lots of things. And apparently they're upset that we call it.
Don't they know we make more than Velcro?
No, that's what I've been told anyway. I have sadly remembered partly why we had an economic downturn, and I say sadly because I am a union-minded person, but the unions got a bit carried away with themselves in the sort of 60s and 70s and did quite a bit of damage to this country.
Would that qualify as a social institution, the unions?
Yeah, basically anything
Yeah, it would,
where
yeah.
that is
So,
power
like, how
related,
about- Oh, okay. So how about thoughts on unions without anybody getting themselves into any trouble or whatever?
I found with unions it depends. Some people that take it seriously can make unions really work and really, really help. And to be honest, I've used unions before to help me in the workplace, and it has been awesome. But it's kind of mixed because you'll get people who are just doing it for the money or for the power, and they don't care about the people that they're helping. So it really depends on the efficacy of the people who are doing it, because they're just people like you and me. So, but yeah, and you can just easily infiltrate a union. Yeah,
and on the flip side of that too, you can have people that seriously care about the people more than the company. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, and then they abuse the company, and then
Right.
Then everyone loses.
So
yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, if you Google, we don't have to, just say, if you Google British Leyland in the 70s, it wasn't just British Leyland, but yeah, a lot of the unions got just a little bit carried away with it, and pushed things too far and kept pushing. And had a counterproductive effect, in my opinion. And it's like these third-wave feminists. They give feminism a bad name, and the unions here in the UK in the 70s gave unions a bad name.
Well, the thing about unions that I didn't like, now I do see a definite need for unions, right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, we do, in my view, we do have to have them, right? And I do believe that they have went too far in a lot of issues, right? But the one thing that I didn't like was that when I was doing parts for Ford's, GM, Chrysler, Nissan, stuff like that, I was working for a supplier company that was non-union, right? So the supplier companies, they get paid squat. You don't make anything. You take the risk and all this other stuff. While the Fords, Chryslers, GM, whatever, they're making money in these unions. Not those companies, but the unions involved with them. So I think that a lot of times the unions, some of the benefits they get, some of the financial benefits they get, they're doing that on the backs of the supplier companies. And I see that as like another form of inequity or another form of exploitation, right? But I don't see a way around that. I don't see a solution to that because I think you have to have exploitation in the capitalist system by default at some point, right? And certainly without the unions, there's not much incentive for the companies to look out for the good of their people, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So you guys ready to go on?
Sure.
Carry on our wayward son. On culture, hopefully that doesn't take down this hangout as I'm saying that. Okay. On culture and the group. Is culture something that should be consumed, or is it better to make our own culture? So by this, I mean, obviously we're being spoon-fed, culture, which is basically who we should be, what we should think, how we should act, what we should wear, all of these concepts and ideas. Obviously, we're being fed this by our consumer society, and tribes in the jungle have culture and all that. Is this something that we should take from our elders, or is this something that we should try to make for ourselves? What do you guys think?
It depends on whether the cultures our elders have left us is good or not.
Yeah, culture is something that evolves. It changes over time.
Yeah,
and it's guided by some movements, by trends, by fashion, by music, but it's just something that is influenced, and depending on how a society, a culture, a society values these different aspects of culture, it either stays the same or changes. And
you mean the Illuminati isn't doing it?
Yeah, it probably is the Illuminati.
Right.
Yes. But like, for example, if you guys go to another country, like I lived in Japan for a while, so one would say that they have a different culture. But what I really realized in living in a place like that is that culture is not really a thing. Just people automatically assume that they're supposed to be consuming things, it appears, or consuming the ideas that they should have. And maybe that's out of a type of comfort that it gives you, a belonging. What do you guys think about that? I'm not sure I agree that culture is a tangible thing, that's an evolving thing. I'm not sure that I think of it that like that.
Well, it's conceptual, obviously. It's the set of behaviors,
cultural norms,
customs.
Yeah, but just because you can
of a given society, it is. I mean, it is a real thing because we've defined it that way. I mean, it's conceptual, sure, but it is ever changing. It's amorphous.
So maybe it's.
But are you perhaps getting at the fact, logic, that sometimes it is, or it seems to have been manufactured for us?
In a lot of cases.
Yeah, for example, the fashion industry and pop music.
Yes.
That kind of stuff.
Well, it's like, what if you're in
reality TV?
Yeah. What if you're in a plane above a city, or over the ocean? What's your culture then? I'm not sure that that's
it's modal.
Thing,
Okay, so you're making the argument that, or the point that culture is modal to your situation, right? So like your culture would mean something in certain situations in certain locales, but not necessarily anything in other locales, or as much in other locales and situations.
And because of that, I don't consider it objective in a manner. I don't consider it as something that's hard in reality, where I could say I'm American and I agree with American culture, or I don't agree that that's a real idea. I think that we're making assumptions about different things about behavior or thought patterns or aesthetics and stuff like that. I think people don't realize that they could just make this all on their own. I think that a lot of people just like to follow along, and so that's probably why there's culture. But it's not necessarily a thing. I think we just assume it's a thing. Does that make any sense?
It is a thing, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's only different aspects.
Can you explain that it is, though? Can you,
well,
yeah, because it doesn't make sense to me that it is a thing. That's why I want to talk about this.
It is a thing, but it really depends on how what's the word? What's the word? How it depends on your tendency to conform. I mean, there are cultural norms which change over time. Some, not all of them, but culture is defined as not only customs and beliefs, but language, values. These are all things that define culture within a given society or group. right? That's why you have things. That's why you have the term subculture, because even
Right.
within a culture, you may have a group that has a subculture. They may hold many of the superculture beliefs and ideas and values, but they have their own modes.
Okay, so here's my argument against that idea. Is it okay if I cut you off there? Is it okay? Sorry.
That's fine. No, go ahead.
So my argument is everything that exists is produced from the human mind into reality for it to become real. And so it is the human beings themselves that are constructing what society or what culture is.
Yes.
And so that being said, it is completely up to, in my opinion, the individual to be able to construct culture. And I think it's a mistake to let other people's mental creations become essentially a part of your everyday self and life. And I think,
and yet they do.
Assume that, yeah, but to assume that that's just a thing. Like I think people aren't considering abstractly what's going on to them. You know.
But again, you say construct. Yes, you either construct or you conform, and that's what makes up culture, though.
Right, but still, I think it's all because out of its subjectivity. I don't think it's like an objective thing. Like I wouldn't use the term that like this is my culture or this is my society's culture. It would just be these are a bunch of crazy ideas people have had that live in my approximate location.
Which includes the language you speak.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And the slang words you adopt.
Language, though, is the ability to express my thoughts, and maybe a culture is also that in some way. But to consider it objectively a thing outside of just imagination itself, I think is sort of inaccurate.
There was one definition. I looked it up just to see what definitions were out there. One said culture refers to the cumulative deposit of knowledge, experience, beliefs, values, attitudes, meanings, hierarchies, religion, notions of time, roles, spatial relations, concepts of the universe, and material objects and possessions acquired by a group of people in the course of generations through individual and group striving.
There you go.
That was a lot.
And it's
There's so many different.
Yeah. Like when you sit and think about the culture here in the United States, and all the different things that make up what we are as a nation or a group of people on the whole. And then, like you said, within that you have subcultures, stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
you've got Americans and you've got Texans.
and hippies.
What?
I think the trouble.
I will. Sorry.
I think the trouble for me logically is that it could become anything I would will it to be, and so that facet in itself makes me think that culture is not this hard thing. Like you can say that the culture is evolving, but to me, I just think that we're using the wrong terms to describe the phenomenon. It seems that this is just an actualization of the inner world to the outer world. And this is a process that happens at an individual level, not necessarily as a societal level. At a societal level, and so I just feel like our perception of what this is and what's occurring is off, but it's also difficult to explain. Does that make any sense?
Isn't that the same thing with morality too? When that.
Well, that would come under.
Yeah, morality is generally part of culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you say, I think some of our culture is something that's, I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm going to use it anyway, sort of organically evolved,
yes.
And some of it is manufactured.
Yes.
Some of our culture is what I call opium for the people, which probably makes me sound like a complete and utter snob, but I am talking about the really pulp, trashy pop music. And I'm not saying all pop music's like that, but some of it is just so mind-numbing. And reality TV and soap operas and this kind of, I mean, I love fashion, but some of the things that is like, well, you must be what you. Some of it is so manufacturer. Just, I mean, it almost marries into the previous subject we were talking, that it's all to keep us
you certainly
occupied.
but you bring up two good examples: pop music and soap operas. Now there was an origin to that, though.
That's true, yeah. With the,
there was a say just a song. So there was a song. I like that. Let's push this on everybody. Let's
it's short for popular.
Convince everybody to make music that sounds like this, and then that's the culture. That cultural thing grows out of an origin. Like there was a first soap opera. Let's keep doing this way. Let's keep making TV shows this way.
Yeah.
And that's the growth of a cultural aspect.
Well, then sometimes something may become popular or not. Like some people might like it, but the majority of people may not like it, and not enough are interested in a soap opera or certain music, and it kind of slowly dies out because, like, the culture, as a whole, doesn't really like this, and it can't survive. No matter how much you try to push it.
Right. We're finally done with Beanie Babies, right?
Yeah, but that's something.
Would you guys say that cosplay, the cosplay phenomenon, is a culture?
A manufactured or a natural?
Yeah, because I was just thinking there's a serial killer culture, and what it is they're not serial killers, but they're people who they collect all this memorabilia, all these books, and they read up on all this stuff. They actually,
like some of the actual weapons used.
Right, and they'll go to like the places where stuff happened, and they know the names of the victims and everything else. They're like museums. I know a guy that does like documentaries and stuff, and he's like, his name's John Borowski, and he had this book, Serial Killer Culture, and I thought it was just a gimmick for his book, right? And I started looking at his post and watching a few of the videos he had for it. And there actually is this small movement of people that's really a thing to them, right? And I kind of liken that to the cosplay thing, though the cosplay thing I could understand more, right? The cosplay thing, if you look at the way that people dress nowadays, right, like your average, I don't know, 30-year-old, 25-year-old, whatever, it's like nowadays they can wear a shirt with a symbol of the Green Lantern or whatever, right? And back in my day, when I was young and in school or whatever, it's like you couldn't wear something like that without getting beat up, because that wasn't like accepted by the culture, right? It was like... Yeah, it was like the comics and stuff were more like a hidden thing. But nowadays,
we had those when I was a kid.
Part of the subculture.
And on that idea, I think it's a good idea to move on to the next topic, which is related to what you're saying.
Oh, I had one little thing I want to throw out.
Okay, go ahead.
What would be we talked about institutions, and then we talked about subcultures. So what's the difference from one to the other?
Smaller size?
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah. Exactly, just size. And I think something that's bothered me is I've never really consumed culture. I've always been sort of a type of person to create my own thing. I would, cosplay and go to school type of a thing, hanging out with the goth kids, I wasn't a goth kid, but I was hanging out with the goth kids.
So you might be part of that culture.
Yeah, but not actually in it, like
on the periphery.
I used to sing in heavy metal bands and different stuff like that, and so back then I was part of that culture, right? Not so much nowadays, right? But the thing is that the value of the culture changes over time, right? It's like, so the stuff back then that was like, hey, that's really cool, is really not all that cool now, right? So the culture kind of dissipates over time. Or it graduates to something else, I guess. But yeah, so you could say you were probably part of that culture. Now, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily aware that you're part of a culture, right? Like an accent. Like if somebody says, well, you have an accent, right? It's like you're not really aware of your own voice, or your accents or what tells you have in your speech. But if somebody points it out to you, then you're like, oh yeah, okay, well yeah, that is the way it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have an accent.
I'm the only one here without an accent.
Yeah, your accent is a product of your culture. Cultural confusion.
General confusion for me.
Yeah, general. Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
So, a discussion on the phenomenon of exiling group members and attacking others who do not fit group standards or expectations. And Quintica, aka PJ, was discussing the phenomenon of kids being beaten up when he was a kid for having like a Marvel shirt or the Incredible Hulk or something like that, right?
Right. It was just generally that was part of what I guess you would say would be geek culture back then. But see, we're talking about before computers were like common, right? So I'm talking in the the 80s, 70s, whatever. So it's like so back then there was more focus on guys had to look like guys, girls had to look like girls, or you had to be a jock, or you had to be a tough guy, or whatever. Or if you were like the nerdy guy or whatever, you better be really good at that and stick to that crowd, right? Nowadays, I don't know if it's the same. I don't think it's the same. I think people are probably more forgiving now. They probably intermingle more from one group to another group. And I think that's a good thing. But it is a little goofy to me when I see somebody, say I'm working with somebody or whatever, and I see them dressed up like they're on a hockey team because they have all their hockey gear supporting their team, and it's like, you don't actually play hockey, you're a fan, but you're dressed up like you're ready to go in there, right? Like the jersey and all that. I mean, there's this fandom that goes with that, right? Which is more acceptable now, I think, than it was way back in the day. But like with the superhero thing, it's like now you see grown adults, grown men can wear a Flash T-shirt and it's not a big deal. It's cool, and all that. But I think there was a time when you couldn't do that without having a stigma of maybe being a geek, or maybe worse, maybe something that you make yourself a target, right?
I think that's still true.
And that's why I approve of school uniforms.
But it's certainly more acceptable. It's acceptable to more people, but there's still going to be people who do not appreciate your Green Lantern T-shirt, who will think less of you because you are a geek, that you're still interested in comic books. I mean, I don't give a shit. I like comic books. I played high school football and played Dungeons and Dragons, bitches. So
you're an anomaly.
I was yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Anomaly. Yeah.
I
You got it.
I did also hang out with the goth kids, but was not a goth kid. I walked among them, but was not one of them.
Yes. I would dress all in white.
You were the anti-goth.
Yeah, I was an anti-goth, and I was the only one. I think that's my problem.
You were the optimistic one, right?
Yes, and everybody's negative, and I'm optimistic. It was beautiful.
You stood out like a sore thumb.
They make fun of me, and I'm just like, okay, all right. They say, yeah, but look at you, man. You make fun of me.
I know. I've met people like that before who will complain that, oh, you just don't like the way we wear these crazy alternative clothes. But I'm going to take the piss out of you for wearing boring jeans and a T-shirt. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, years ago, people probably would have branded me as a kook. I mean, see, that's my collection.
What do you mean years ago?
Those are from me. Years ago, you collect what?
I think there's always going to be cliques, but I think from my personal experience, and I know it's anecdotal, but I think there is a lot more fluidity in acceptance of people liking different things. Music's still a bit tricky, but yeah. I was going to say music sometimes can be a tricky one, but But generally speaking, yeah, I think geeky stuff has become more popular.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's become more acceptable for people to be geeky than it was back in my day.
Well, I think one thing with people doing a lot of different things, geeky stuff, whatever, a lot of people understand more about it. You know, they were thinking, you know, you're really weird, strange, because you read all these science books or this or that or whatever. But then they come to realize, you know, in its own way, it's kind of cool, or they understand more about why the people do it, and that it's not something that makes you weird, you know? Because like you could go like from yesterday's geeks comes the new supercomputer or something, you know, that they built.
And whenever something becomes popular, you always get posers and accusations of being a poser if you don't conform.
Yeah.
Like I skateboarded, but I owned not one Pusshead T-shirt or anything of the kind.
What?
So I was
well. Is that banned?
I don't even know what that means.
It's an artist actually, but
cool.
the point is that, you know, I may have skateboarded, but I didn't dress like, you know, a quote unquote skateboarder. So I got shit about it, you know,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I was a long-haired hippie who liked punk music.
So do you guys think the ultimate end of all of this is everything will have made? There will be so many types of clothes, so many types of ways of looking at things and living and thinking that eventually this will all culminate into an ultimate acceptance of everybody, because everybody will be doing something different? Or do you think this trend of things carrying on where there's big groups of people doing things, or subcultures, or do you think it's going to be an ever-changing thing of subcultures and bigger cultures and mixing, mashing, or
Always
what do you guys
changing.
think?
The last one.
Always
Okay.
changing.
Okay.
Yeah. So you don't think there will ever be a time where generally we can just randomly do something unique and different, and people would be cool with it at first? Be like, oh,
Well, I don't know. We're only human, so like we really haven't changed over all these times. We just know a bit more. Sometimes that helps us accept other things, but it's like things will always be in motion, in fluid, you know, changing. And sometimes what was old is new again. Sometimes things come around, you know, back around again. Because it's like we can't stay static. You know, we've got it's just natural for us to change and adapt new things or whatever.
And I don't mean to be like pessimistic about it, but you know,
go ahead.
There's always going to be those people that are going to be trying to pull you down to put themselves up. So you know.
Yeah.
Always
Sad
gonna
but
be
true.
that.
yeah,
Sad but
savages. Yeah.
But hopefully they'll be the
Savages.
subculture, and the rest of us will be.
Yeah. Can hope.
Cool. So I'll just keep my head up and do my own thing. My culture of one.
You should.
Yeah.
You should do what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, if it makes you happy and don't hurt nobody, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, because I like to be my own unique self and do unique things and cutting edge. I like to start fashion trends and stuff like that. I don't like to go along with what people are doing. It's just my way. So
I
gotta
like to
what makes
do
me
what I
happy.
like to do.
But I have to say, I mean, looking at what you're wearing now, I don't think the T-shirt is ever going to catch on.
I don't think that's cutting edge, dude. You're going to have to do something with that, you know?
So I'm teaching.
Well, it is popular in some subcultures. So it's a tank top, but it's a T-shirt. It's a
The
tank
plain
top.
white T-shirt.
Yeah.
Did you cut the sleeves off?
No.
Okay.
See, you guys are being prejudiced.
Yeah, stop trying to pigeonhole the tank top.
I don't. This guy, he's different. I don't like him. Go away. No.
All over the herd.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. That's okay though, because everybody likes different stuff apparently. So.
Yeah, we do.
And again, you either construct, is that what you said, or conform?
Is everybody this unique in real life, or are they just waiting till they get online to be unique?
Yeah, you know, being different is
where's
interesting.
where's the uniqueness in real life? That's what I want to know. Like, no one, everyone's like bitch made in real life. You know, they're trying to like conform and collect that money, it seems, and just go along with the flow. No one seems to like go against the grain in real life, but on here they're rebels.
Yeah, but you know that when you do that, it causes problems. You know, and you know you don't want to.
I'm not saying be defiant, be deliberately defiant, or jeopardize your stream of income. I'm just simply saying that you should just not just follow the herd. Like I don't know, maybe it's where I live. I've yet to find a person that really doesn't just follow the herd, and I understand it's like instinctive. I'll have to do it.
See, but again, you're probably seeing seeing people on, for want of a better term, a very superficial level.
Yeah.
And what they're doing at home, what they're going on in their own heads, could be following the herd. It could be something remarkably unique. But as you say, you've got to make well, you haven't got to, but generally speaking, most of us are out there doing something to earn a living. More often than not, it's not something we particularly want to be doing.
Yeah, I'm fairly normal, and I have no problem telling people I collect toys.
Yeah.
You know, that's just me. It's what I do. I have no problem with it. And some people I get good reaction from.
Yeah.
You know, oh, that's cool. I had one of those when I was a kid. Well, you know.
You might often find that the person that you think is quite boring and uninteresting is actually far from it, and the person who's wearing the wearing the bright red tie with the yellow polka dots on is actually quite a boring conformist.
Oh, it depends, like if there's a trend or something like that, right?
Sorry, don't mean to interrupt. I can see how people get taken advantage of on a daily basis. You know, with the way people are. I can definitely see it. I can see why sociopaths come into society and just wreak havoc, especially if they are very, very charismatic and can kind of hypnotize people with their words.
Yeah, it makes people predictable too, that they're so forthcoming with the whole following along and all of that. Yeah, it makes people really easy to take advantage of.
Maybe I'm being judgmental, Maybe I'm being judgmental, very judgmental. Then again, I do live in Florida, so Florida is not a very great place to live.
Yeah, I can't think I'd like to live in Florida from what I've heard of it.
No, you wouldn't. Trust me, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
So whereabouts in Florida? Or what area?
Central Florida.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, see, I'm in South Florida.
Oh, that's a very plastic society there. More plastic than where I live.
Well, just look at his avatar. He's made of plastic.
I lived in St. Pete for a few years. It was different.
St. Pete's not bad.
Cool, guys.
I guess I killed the conversation there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine living in Florida.
You're being all elitist about Florida now and leaving the rest of us out.
We're going to shun you.
Yeah. What do you
Hope y'all can swim down there.
But it is, I don't know, it is a...
I don't know. Do different geographical places produce different kinds of characteristics in people? You know?
No, they don't. They don't. It's that's what I was arguing. That's why I was arguing against culture earlier. The whole idea that geography dictates the type of person you become, I think, is just totally ridiculous. Yeah.
Really think so?
It's also the different things that you grow up learning. So that has a very.
I think
that's a good point.
It can dictate it very, in some ways, in that if you live in a really hot, dry climate. I mean, if you look at what the most Arabic people wear, it's very practical for where they're living. The long white dresses that stops the sand being blown and onto their skin and stops the sun burning them constantly. That's probably really badly put because I'm tired now. But yeah, I think sometimes certain aspects of culture will be reflected in the climate and for practical reasons.
Yeah, and about 20 steps away from that idea, someone could start bringing in racism. It's like, oh, well, the people born in this climate are inferior, and this and that. I've seen some conversations go that way with certain people, and it's disturbing that some people do that.
I'll refrain from what I believe on that subject and go with what the science. There's a lot of no one really investigates that
Boy,
subject.
I hit that nail, didn't I?
No, I'm saying like no one investigates that subject honestly on either side to really conclude, make a conclusive argument about it. That's the unfortunate fact. It kind of muddies the water. We can't really talk about things, and I think that's a bad thing. Something is off limits.
Yeah, definitely. We need free expression. It's essential for the health of society.
It doesn't mean if you have a counter argument to what they're saying, it doesn't mean automatically you're a racist, or you believe a certain kind of way,
Yeah, fear of words is a big issue, definitely. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I kind of see that as it's two different things: the science versus the social component of it. Because I mean, should science really dictate how we treat other people?
No, but it should be open for investigation, though. Not something on university campuses. It shouldn't. It should be common discourse.
Yeah, that is definitely true. I agree with that.
I don't think it should set like policies. We should treat everybody equally. But if there's like medical facts about different groups, and there are, by the way, there are confirmed medical facts amongst different groups that doctors know and they implement. Like bone marrow transplants is a good one, and stuff like that.
If I may, before we get too far off track, Logic, did you have another topic?
Nope, that's it. We're
Last
off
topic.
right now.
What are you saying about bone marrow transplants?
I'm saying bone marrow transplants, actually, they have a crisis now where they can't find bone marrow transplants for mixed-race people because it is kind of race-specific, believe it or not. And there are different responses to medications also when it comes to race, like antipsychotics. Asians have a different response than Caucasians and vice versa. So these truths are actually true. That doesn't mean people are inferior or superior. It just means there might be some kind of, just some differences.
Yeah, there's lots of genetic differences. I've not heard of this problem with bone marrow.
Look it up.
I mean, I understand that you need to have a bone marrow match.
Oh yeah, I think that's what I'm talking about. Not transplant, but a match. Yeah, you're correct.
Which is heavily dictated by blood type.
Yeah.
Speaking of medical stuff, I heard that so scientists tried to stay ahead of the bacteria and viruses on the planet by creating, or not bacteria, just viruses to create vaccines, and apparently they have this last line vaccine that's supposed to it's like their final battle against viruses or whatever.
It's bacteria and antibiotics.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's bacteria then, so
and
apparently
antibiotics.
Yeah. So yes, that's what I'm trying to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a medical person, so I don't know.
That's fine.
But anyway, so we could be having an issue with antibiotics, and so it's interesting.
Yeah, because that's been brought up a good bit. Like people are prescribed antibiotics, and they don't take them like they should. They get a feeling better, they can stop taking them, and then they don't continue the treatment to be sure, they get rid of whatever it is. So whatever's left over may survive and adapt to the current antibiotic.
Right.
Yeah, it's a course of treatment for a reason.
Right. Yes. A few times I've taken, they said, be sure you take everything, no matter if you're doing backflips, you take these things.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think they are working to solve that issue. They're trying to think about, instead of just using antibiotics that attack the bacteria one way, they'll use one that'll attack it in two different ways, and that way it'll be harder for the bacteria to adapt to them.
Super infection.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, I think as well, because maybe this is what Logic was saying earlier, and I wasn't paying full attention. But yeah, we've become almost immune to the effects of antibiotics because we've overprescribed. And they become, like, the more you take antibiotics, the less effective they become, if I'm correct.
Well, you get bacteria that survive and adapt, right, to that particular antibiotic. I haven't taken antibiotics for 20 years at least.
I might be mistaken, but I think it's also the effect it has upon your body for being. I don't really know the details, to be honest, but I know it's not good to just. Like sometimes patients will go in and they've got maybe a virus rather than an infection, but they want a prescription. So the doctor, I don't think it happens so much now because they've realised it's a bit of a stupid thing. Oh, you want a prescription? Here's an antibiotic. Oh, right, here's an antibiotic. Now go away and stop bothering me.
It still happens, actually. People prefer to have prescriptions for antibiotics.
Yeah.
Well, rather than confirm whether or not the ailment is caused by a virus or a bacteria, they'll just give you the antibiotics, assuming that it's just in case it's a bacteria. But it's usually better to check. Although the other thing is that when you become sick from a virus, it's often the case you can get a secondary bacterial infection, so that the antibiotic is a precaution just in case to keep the secondary bacterial infection from getting hold.
I'm afraid to say that the general public is not as diligent as the people in this room when it comes to antibiotics. You know, they're largely not educated about them.
Yeah. And I mean, it's always been really a matter of time, though, that we run out of
here's another
with antibiotics.
Here's another
bacteria having such a short life cycle are going to evolve. They're going to continue to evolve.
Well, yeah, and like with surgery, I mean, your body's being opened up like that, and you need antibiotics to make sure that you don't get an infection of some sort. And so, I mean, it's a big issue.
Yeah.
In addition to that, big pharma companies are actually dumping pharmaceutical waste in places like India, and it's producing these super bugs and these super infections.
I saw a crazy headline. I think it was New York City Water had I don't know 7% ecstasy and 2% I don't know cocaine and
7%.
And well, maybe it wasn't 7, maybe it was 3. It was some significant number in my mind, though.
Was it mostly Prozac? I mean, it wasn't mainly Zoloft and antidepressants.
I'm pretty sure those were listed also. And in fact, I'm not sure exactly what. In fact, I'm not even sure it was a real headline.
Was this in America someplace?
I think it said New York City Water.
Oh, really?
Of course it was America.
And they found all these drugs, both pharmaceutical prescriptions and recreational drugs in the water.
Wasn't the Onion, was it?
I don't know. I'm actually looking right now.
No, I understand. That's true. And municipal water supplies always have kind of prescription drugs flushed down the toilet, and so it's everywhere.
If you're about to be raided, it's the first thing you do, isn't it?
Everybody's quitting at once, and they're flushing it down.
Well, you've got a combination. You've got people flushing them, and also if you're using them and going for a wee-wee.
Right.
Pharmaceuticals found in drinking water. These 14 drugs and chemicals were found in New York City tap water. CBS News also has it. This is Business Insider. 15 pharmaceutical drugs and chemicals found in New York City drinking water. And where are they listed here?
Because depending on where you live is how you're going to have your water's going to be more recycled than other places. Like London will be worse, and I should imagine New York City will be worse than a rural place.
Kind of distressed by that. I thought that the filtering system would get rid of all that.
Okay, so this was a study conducted in 2009 and a follow-up in 2010. The study included chlorine-treated and source water. 9 million New Yorkers may be ingesting compounds such as ibuprofen, DEET,
oh, jeez,
butyl. Where's the rest of them?
It'll be very minute quantity, so.
I would hope so with the DEET, but yeah. But
still,
the main thing. Yeah, the main thing your sewage, your water system's going to do is it's mostly interested in filtering out the various bugs. I don't know how well it works in filtering out drugs that are going through the system. I really don't know. I'm not an expert. It's pity my husband's not here because he does know about this stuff because he works. Some of his work he does is on sewage and water treatment systems. So he'd probably, but he's not actually here because he's watching. Well, he's probably asleep in his tent at the moment. He's got
I did a Google search on it. There's a lot of hits and a lot of different sources too.
Yeah, environmental officials say the levels are too low to pose any health dangers.
I mean, what about hormones? We've got a lot of hormones as well with women on the pill and going for PPs.
Right, and that's actually one of the things I wondered about.
PP.
Looking I'm trying to confirm what was actually there.
Is it just me or is JJ a bit crackly and breaking up?
Am I
yeah, he is.
That's not right. Okay, yeah, you're gone a bit robotic.
I mean, I'm getting stuff from PBS, Scientific American, Harvard, a lot of different sources.
But yeah,
guys, it'll be okay. Think of it like getting free drugs. You know, it's a party. It's a party, guys.
It depends on what drugs they are. I mean, I don't mind if I'm getting not tested. You know, I don't mind if I'm getting estrogen, but you might mind a little bit more than I do, unless you want your own boobies.
People like drugs. This is probably the argument they sell they go to the city and they're like, hey, we've been seeing these drugs in here, and like, hey, people are buying these drugs and taking them. People want to party. You know, it's just a free. I think
it's socialism. It's socialism at its best.
Think about it like this: people are getting their drugs from the water, which cuts down on gang violence.
Soma. Oh, I like that. I do about drug interaction.
Drink your Soma.
Yeah, you don't have to go down to the corner for your fix. You just turn on the tap water. Hey. Capitalism at work.
Capitalism and socialism at the same time.
There you go. Party on.
Yeah.
Anyway.
They should just be putting the benzodiazepam in the water.
Something about diazepam from the water.
Some Percocets would be nice.
Well, you just gotta flip that tap water on, apparently. You're good to go. But you're also going to get some cocaine, and you're going to have
Dilaudid.
What type of drug is Percocet then?
It's opiate.
Opiate.
Oh, right, it's a painkiller. Right, yeah.
See, now, are these drugs that are just thrown into the toilet and flushed down or whatever, or are these drugs that go through a person?
I'd say it's both.
A person first.
It seems like it's both.
Both, yeah.
Because then we might have to hire more people to take the drugs to
but if it goes to the person, it goes to the first pass effect, it's pretty much worthless. Once it gets
okay, yeah.
Some of it, yeah. Oh, not your estrogen. Enjoy that, boys.
Oh, yeah, estrogen. Yeah. Can you get high off estrogen? I mean.
No, you can get boobies.
No, that's
So if you're single and heterosexual, you might like it to some degree, but...
Not on myself. No, thanks.
Just might have to start wearing baggy shirts, but yeah.
Boy, I learned something new tonight. Drugs in the water. Wow.
Yeah, it's in the water.
Always learning. Always
learning. Soy. How about in terms of estrogen? What about soy products? Can you really turn into a female from soy products?
I've heard about that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about it, but I have heard about it.
Here's a broader study, which includes other cities. Found sex hormones in San Francisco's water.
Yeah, big surprise.
Oh, yeah.
3 medications, including an antibiotic, were found in the drinking water supplied to Tucson, Arizona.
Yeah, time to get my filter on.
Oh, that reminds me. Fiona, I think years ago, Fiona was involved in a study of that, and I forget exactly where. It was somewhere over in probably England or somewhere in that area where she's
in
at.
Scotland.
Scotland, yeah. And it had to do with certain types of fish were not breeding like they should. And they come to find out there was hormones in the water. causing
you're
them not to
right.
breathe like they should. I'm not good on the details, but I do remember she was in on something. Do you remember that, don't you?
I do. Yeah, now you come to mention it. As soon as you started saying
Yeah.
about the fish, at first I was like, "What are you?" And then I thought, "Ah, yes."
Yes, because of these
Yes,
hormones and
correct.
stuff that was in the water, and it was actually causing the fish not to reproduce.
If I remember right, I was looking for that link, and I pulled up a ton of links, but I don't think it's the right one. There was a plant that made it, and I think it was in England somewhere, and they made birth control pills, and the runoff water was making the fish where they were, not having sex or whatever, or being sex.
Oh, that's the same.
That might be had to do something with it.
And yeah, that was a while ago. That was I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, maybe more. Yeah. And yeah, that was a big story. Now I don't know what they did, if they had to clean that up, that pond or whatever, but it was spreading through the ecosystem. With frogs and fish and all types of animals.
Yeah, if Fiona was around, or well, anyway, she helped on that, discover what the problem was, and I think wherever it was, they started taking measures to stop it. But yeah, it was a while back. Amazing at the stuff that she's been involved with. It really is.
Yeah, well, supposedly now I watched I think it was a Nova special on this a while back, and they were talking about Russians had created a type of polycarbonate, right? And it was a thing that later on led to our plastics in our bottles and stuff like that. Well, when they first made this stuff, they didn't make it for bottles. They made it to as a sex hormone that would make more women be born, right, as opposed to men. And because they had some kind of problem where where it wasn't equaling out, like they had too many males and not enough women, or something to that effect. So the scientists had made this stuff, and then when they figured out how potent it was and all this other stuff, and the potential damage of it, they discontinued it. But then later on, that same formula was used just for making bottles. And
how do you go from medicine to bottles?
Well, see, because you
lost me.
Well, see, because it was used as a chemical component to affect the sex of the unborn fetus, right? Or the when it was being developed. Okay, so anyway, the same formula, the same stuff could be used for making these polycarbonates as plastics and stuff, right? So
you mean added to whatever the other stuff was or something?
Right. So one thing led to another thing, and then it was kind of like, well, we're just going to make plastics out of it now and all this other stuff. Forget about all that. I don't even know if a lot of the people that made it knew what it was made for originally, right? So then we had this big scare with, I think it was soft plastics, like baby bottles, stuff like that, and that's why they were telling people to not buy those types of bottles for babies, to use glass bottles or whatever, because they were afraid of leakage from this chemical component.
Right. So here's the actual original headline that I saw whenever it was, a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Did I put it? Maybe I didn't put it in there yet, did I?
You put
farmer
water sites.
This is Empire Herald, actually, and it's 11% MDMA or ecstasy or Molly, whatever, and 6% oxycodone.
Wait, out of the 100% of water?
That's the implication, right? That's the headline. New York City tap water contains 11% Molly and 6% oxycodone.
So that'd be pretty high, wouldn't it?
That sounds pretty high.
Yeah.
Maybe I will move to New York.
Yeah, party on, Garth.
Yeah, there's no way that's right.
Right?
Wow. Living in the wrong state.
In fact.
But still better than Flint, right?
Yeah, you know what? This has got to be this is satire, right? This is satire. I'm not familiar with.
It can't be like that's so illegal. Come on, that's too illegal. Come on.
Empire Herald.
If I click on that link, it won't take me out of this, will it?
No.
It shouldn't.
It should
It'll
do.
pop up
Yeah.
a new.
Or you can,
I mean,
you
yeah,
can right click and open a new tab.
that particular story does talk about it being people throwing the stuff down the toilet. Apparently, due to the amount of parties, I don't know why you'd go to a party and throw your drugs down the toilet, but
Yeah,
there you go.
Empire Herald is. Oh, sorry.
A lot of
That's
drugs.
It's this quote later on. It says, I'm proud to drink 8 glasses a day. I'm not sure who's dumping their drugs down the drain, but keep up the great work.
Yeah,
Said
it's kind of a
Robert
satire.
Smith. Yeah, it's got to be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Oh,
don't
I'm
know.
just
That's-
going to go down to the comments, and somebody says they're responding to someone else because someone said this is the biggest load of BS I've heard in my life, blah blah blah, and someone else replies, "I guess you don't know. This site is like the Onion. Most of the context is is satirical, unless they specify otherwise."
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah. But there
Fascinating.
is, without doubt, a certain percentage, even though it probably is very low, of drugs and hormones going into you. And like I say, if you're living in a big city, your drinking water is recycled more than other places, and there's a limit to how much they can filter out.
There's also rat turds in your Raisin Bran.
Wow. Great, guys. So now I'm terrified to drink water and my food
eat
is
Raisin
rat
Bran.
poop.
Rat turds.
Yeah.
In your peanut butter.
All too much for me.
There's probably bits of beetle in your chocolate as well.
Oh man. Good thing I don't eat chocolate.
That's the crunch. That's where the crunch comes
Wait, you
from.
don't eat chocolate? No, you should be ostracized. That's just freakish.
I know. What a weirdo.
I wish I didn't eat chocolate.
Yeah.
You what?
I said I wish I didn't eat chocolate.
Why would you wish that?
Girls like chocolate. It's yeah.
Sexist.
I wish I ate less chocolate.
I'm a man. That's the only reason I
Yeah.
don't eat chocolate.
I'm actually a woman.
Yeah.
I don't eat candy, but I eat chocolate.
Oh.
Oh.
You would, JJ.
I am racist about my chocolate. Actually, I like.
Yeah, you don't
dark
like it dark, do you?
Yeah.
Wait,
I
what?
don't want none of that white stuff. No, I want my chocolate dark.
Yeah.
White chocolate isn't even chocolate, so
I agree.
it's just cocoa
Wait, hang
butter.
on. Is that the Scotsman fallacy?
No,
it's not real chocolate. I'm
it's-
joking. I'm teasing.
It's the cocoa butter.
Yeah, not yeah.
Mm.
I love me some
Isn't
dark
chocolate white anyway?
No, okay. So in the seed pod, you've got the beans, the cocoa beans, which are the dark part, and they're surrounded by cocoa butter. And so you can get just cocoa. Cocoa is just the beans,
Mm-hmm.
and chocolate is mixing the cocoa beans with the cocoa butter. And often then you have milk chocolate, which adds milk to it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I just looked up white chocolate is a derivative. Yeah.
Go to your co-op and find some cocoa beans. Just cocoa beans. They're yummy. And they're good for you.
Yeah, and buy a little mortar and pestle. Roast them in the oven. Make your own chocolate.
Oh my.
Stop it, I'm getting hungry now. And I haven't got any chocolate. And it's 1:15 in the morning, so I can't even go and get some chocolate.
Really? Can't you order some chocolate or something?
Not to be delivered at this. No. I mean, I could, but it wouldn't come till like.
Oh.
Actually, 11 p.m. is the latest I can order from the local supermarket. So.
Well, that's why America is so great.
We have 7-Eleven.
That's why America's so obese, did you say?
Actually, America is not the #1 obese country anymore.
You're right, actually, yeah. I remember reading that. Now, what?
Yeah.
I can't remember which one it was.
America is getting in shape. No.
Well, I thought-
Who's on top?
I thought Tonga was always on top, but
Oh.
That's probably all that Zumba.
Zumba.
Even it sounds fun.
Oh wow! According
Who's
to the
fatter?
first search that came up, Samoa is top.
Yeah, it's none of
Maybe
us.
that's what I meant. Maybe.
Kuwait, and then the U. Oh, that's 6, 7, 8. That's not even in the right order. You stupid bloody thing. Let's click on this random one. See what we get.
Do you guys want to see something frightening? Here's your culture. Look at this guy.
Who are we looking at?
Just a bunch of college kids.
Oh, don't be judgmental.
Look at that.
I feel pretty.
We're all young ones.
Look at the freaky clothes that guy on the right's wearing. What tray lovers? It's
I think that's a girl.
Well, it's
No,
Halloween, right?
No, the one that's on his own in the black t-shirt. That's just freaky.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, what is that shirt?
He's just trying to stand out, isn't he?
Yeah.
I like the girl in the Egyptian hat in the back. There's some interesting fashion statements going on here.
Oh, it's a costume party.
Yeah.
They look like they're having fun.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's either drugs. There's got to be some drugs in there.
With the drugs in the water.
In the water, yeah.
That's the future of America, everybody. The future of America.
I'm okay with that.
The future.
I'm an individualist, so this works for me.
Should I just
Yeah.
give up all hope and just not expect anything from America? Just
I don't know.
Just get yourself a costume.
What do you expect?
I expect cheap consumer goods, shitty cinema, poor quality people. I don't know.
All your wishes are fulfilled.
I know. And like cheap processed food on every corner, you know? Cheap processed food.
That's easy enough.
Corn-filled, soy-filled food.
Where's my little Debbie's cakes? There we go.
Yum, yum, yum.
Tasty.
All right, guys. Anything else, guys? I'm probably going to end this a little bit early today, so.
Early, really? We could go back to feminism.
Oh, no.
Oh, man. Please do not.
Why did Anita Sarkeesian or Trigglypuff come in here?
Oh, my goodness.
One was evoked.
Oh shit!
I try to stay as far away from anything like Trigglypuff as I possibly can.
Hey, you want me to hook you up with Trigglypuff, dude? I mean, you love it.
Where did this term Trigglypuff come from?
Actually,
It could be.
Just
I mean,
Which,
well,
she
I
was
mean-
big and puffy,
is that her name? Or
yeah.
and she was
Well, they
triggered.
Triggered.
I'm
Yeah.
triggered. She kept saying I'm triggered, and she looks like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I'm
Yeah,
supposed to.
that's kind of what
I
I assumed
think
it
I-
came from.
Yeah, I think I know who you're referring to, and I've seen video.
She
I
is
don't
the
remember-
living
I don't remember
incarnate of Michelin Man.
I don't remember the part saying that I'm triggered, but
I think she did say that, or some shit like that, or I don't know.
I can't remember what she said, but
Yeah, she just
I don't-
started yelling and like just frailing her hands all everywhere and just yelling and causing a major disruption.
shouting
Yeah, I
about
don't-
freedom of speech. when
I
she
don't
was
even
talking to
remember the
Gordon.
setting, to be honest.
I
I
think
think
it was
that
one.
Milo, what's his face?
Was it that Milo Yiannopoulos guy came to campus or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, there's
Milo. It was
Some
Milo.
woman.
It was Milo and Christina Hoff Summers,
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
she was triggered by Christina Hoff Summers,
Ah,
and
makes
she was trying to explain a comment that Milo had made, and Milo had argued. They had a little argument there, and then this Trigglypuff went off, right? And she was saying no hate speech, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was her big deal, is like no hate speech here. But I think the reason the Trigglypuff thing caught on was because also at the same time you had this trailer for Ghostbusters,
No.
and for the new one, right?
Mm.
So she became that meme for that, that Puff, Stay Puff guy or whatever.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that trailer yet. I should watch that.
Don't. It'll totally shit on your childhood or any good memories you had of Ghostbusters.
No,
I don't really have any good memories of Ghostbusters.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't seen any. Oh, I have no recollection of having seen any Ghostbusters.
Well, in that case,
Ghostbusters.
knock
Let
yourself
me
out.
finish. Oh no, I've seen the films, but I haven't seen the trailers. But I am, as far as I'm aware, reliably informed by people who do like Ghostbusters that all their trailers are shite.
I'm not watching it. I can tell you that.
But no, I have been told that that the previous ones, the trailers for those were shite as well. So
I'm not too excited about any Hollywood movie coming out.
well, I'm not.
They all look like shit, to be honest.
I personally didn't think Ghostbusters was a particularly good film.
No.
The ironic thing, sorry, going slightly back to this Jigglypuff woman, is as I can't for the life of me wonder why, but for some reason I was watching the video of this conference, but the camera was just on these guys, the Milo and Christine. And then there was somebody shout. I think I only watched because she started shouting quite early.
I would have actually told her to shut up if I was there.
I think she was told to shut up, and then she complained about freedom of speech or something.
I think when people are causing that disruption and you actually trying to listen to someone talk, just they'll be obnoxious back to them.
I think she was asked to be quiet.
America now.
I think she was asked to be quiet,
bold,
and she shouted out freedom of speech. But yeah, as I say, I didn't realise she was this Jigglypuff.
And if she gets obnoxious, just throw a pie in her face. Say, hey, you had your Snickers today.
Yeah. But
no, I was going to say something bad.
I was going to say, when I was watching it, I have to admit, I sat there. I didn't realise it was just this one woman doing the shouting. I sat there and I thought, I'm really not sure which is.
That's not just one woman. That's multiple.
Well, yeah, that's a big. I honestly sat there and thought, I don't know who's the most childish, the people on the stage talking or the person shouting from the audience, because I was not impressed by anybody, and I think I only watched about 5, maybe 10 minutes and thought, this is just no thank you.
All right, guys.
And then later, sorry, go on.
All right, guys. Well, I'm just about to end it because I've got stuff to take care of. But any last conversation type stuff you guys want to talk about?
Any last requests?
Yes.
Jason Bourne is hot.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Pantheism is the answer?
Yes, and that is true as well.
Beats monotheism, in my opinion.
And
don't drink the water.
Don't drink the water. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, dear.
And don't do drugs, of course, as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Use your brain.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess that's it, huh? For the.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thanks for having us.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
Good talk, guys, girls. Okay.
Yeah.